All right, I think we're live. Let me know how the audio is. If you can hear Stone Cold Steve Austin, give me a hell yeah in the chat box. Um, yeah, 5 disciples in the local police department. No, the local police department. They can't extract money from people ranting on the internet, so they're out hiding off on side streets with their radar guns, looking to harass white people who drive 5 miles over the speed limit. That's how they get money for their municipality, and that's how they get to fund, upgrades to their $100,000 police SUV cruisers, things like that. Things of that nature. That's how they get their Christmas bonuses. They have a certain quota of tickets to give out. Homeless people. I could walk around with my pubes sticking out of my crotch. Okay, like if I have like a button-up fly, I could just have my pubes sticking out, and nobody's gonna stop me because I'm not driving. I look like a derelict. It looks like I have no money, so they're just gonna look the other way. Okay, I could be pushing around a shopping cart full of uh, recyclables, and I could be muttering to myself. I could have a bucket hat with a bunch of different fishing lures attached to it, and I could be muttering to myself incoherently, and they're going to go right by me. They're going to go right by me because there's no money to be had. What are they going to do? Give me a fine and then have me go to the can and bottle redemption center to pay off the fine? The police focus on those who have money, and that means people with cars that have to pass emissions and inspections each year, cars that have to be insured through Allstate, Geico, uh, State Farm. Um, they've got to go to the DMV, get all these different things that cost different money, proof of ownership, a title, etc. So they look for those people who have wealth to extract, extractable wealth. But this is just going to be a bit of an impromptu rant, sort of inspired by Frank Costanza's Festivus, the airing of grievances, because I've been putting out some videos and people take issue with some of the things I say, and it's interesting because I don't know, either they don't listen to the video in its entirety or they miss the point. So um, I uploaded one yesterday. This was an old video, actually. That's the thing about being backlogged. I think this one was the one, what was it called? Rosemary's Baby. That one's from, sometime in spring, sometime in March or something, February, March. Um, and like people were, I can't, some of these people, I don't know if they're trolls. I don't know if they're white. I don't know if they're black. I mean, there's some people who are, at least by their avatar, black. So people seem to be, who are on my channel, but people seem to be thinking like I'm whining that all the black men be stealing all the white women's. Well, for given the number of black males who are in MGTOW or incel or just on my channel as a percentage of their population of the general population. And from what I see personally, my own personal observations, they don't seem to be doing too well. At least those who aren't Urkels. But the couples that I had mentioned that were mixed race, it wasn't a white female with a non-white male. It was a white male, and I gave two examples. One who was with a Sri Lankan woman, and somebody's like, what did this person say? Why ignore and shun the opportunity of settling down with a well-educated, well-paid, smart, and cute Sri Lankan woman? So a lot of these are of no significance. They are inconsequential traits. Well-educated, let me just come a nice Jackson Pollock all over that. statement. I don't give a shit about well-educated. So here's your well-educated, and I make a big Jackson Pollock masterpiece. Um, well paid again. Here comes another Jackson Pollock for you, all over a masterpiece. Hang it in the Museum of Modern Art. Smart is not the same as well-educated. Those are not synonymous. The biggest morons I've ever had to deal with were in higher education, and the most intelligent people had only a high school degree. And again, this assumption that this Sri Lankan woman is cute, you can never, unless it is prefaced with not or severely not, cute and Sri Lankan woman do not go together in the same sentence. Um, all Sri Lankan women all Sri Lankan women look like Mindy Kaling from The Office. Um, and which in turn, Mindy Kaling, she looks like a teak or mahogany version of the incomparable Warwick Davis. He played the leprechaun. He was the little person who played the leprechaun in those horror movies. She just looks like a teak or mahogany version of the leprechaun. Um, if you want to weigh in on the exact color of Sri Lankan women, to me it looks more like a I don't know, maybe a what is it called, a burnt sienna, is that it? Burnt sienna, the name of the crayon. Yeah, burnt sienna. Yeah, I would go with a burnt sienna, maybe a teak, maybe a mahogany. Um, in either case, making the assumption that she was cute, it's that's a big leap there. And as far as the other white doctor, and if the audio cuts out, I'm on my new headset, but it's fully charged. Just let me know. I'm still sort of testing this one out. I don't like the sound of this one. My other headset was better. Um, I think maybe I'll invest in a true mic setup or something uh, to give you those ASMR tingles. But the other example I gave was a white male doctor married to a Chinese woman, Taiwanese perhaps, or I think he said she speaks Cantonese. And as soon as you know that, um, there are few automatic. Yeah, it looks like I did cut out for a second. This is. I apologize for that. I'm gonna have to get just a straight USB mic. Wireless headset is good for music, but uh, yeah, I'm gonna have to get a different headset. But anyway, there are a couple red flags when it comes to Asian women. One is if she's Chinese but she speaks Cantonese, you automatically know she's unattractive. Okay, she's gonna have darker skin. She's gonna have the unattractive Asian facial features. Um, the other giveaway is, say you're just reading somebody's, I don't know, you read something online. There's no photo provided, but they provide the name of the person, and it's a Vietnamese, Chinese woman, whatever, and she's hyphenated her last name. Now she's not a Hapa. She's not one parent white, one parent Asian. She married a white male. Okay, no matter what background. Okay, American, whatever, Russian, Australian, whatever, German, doesn't matter. And so she's hyphenated her last name. She didn't keep her last name. She didn't take his last name. She did both. She combined them. And you automatically know just by the fact that she married a white male that she's unattractive. Okay, I mean, I can guess this 100% of the time. I don't need to see the photo. If I know she's married a white male, I know she's unattractive. I mean, just look at Priscilla, what's her name? Priscilla Chan and Mark Zuckerpuss. Very unattractive uh, Asian woman, very unattractive. So it's a good rule of thumb. If she's Cantonese or if she's married to a white male, you know she's unattractive. Okay. Um, so just some of these comments left on this video, and they don't get to me, but I think they do deserve clarification. Um, let's see here. Oh yeah, yeah. So there's this other sort of trope that you're not truly incel if you have standards. If you have standards of any sort whatsoever, you're not a true incel. And people were saying, well, if you could get with a Latina, Hispanic woman, or a negress, or somebody non-white, or an unattractive Asian woman, you're not really incel if you're foregoing female companionship of any type. So I think I've done a bit of research into the incel community, and I guess they have different sort of portmanteau or neologism terms. So not just incel, but they call things like volcel, like voluntarily celibate. Mental cells are people who are maybe autistic, just very high IQ, unable to relate to other people. They even have sort of like tongue-in-cheek types of incel, like bald cells and I don't know, what do they call manlet cells, or short cells, people who are incel on the basis of being bald or basis of being short, fat cells, neckbeard cells, whatever. So I think there are a few more categories we can add under this umbrella. I would like to propose the concept of a nig cell, which would be a white male who could have success with black women, but is not attracted to black women and consequently is incel as a result. So I call this a nig cell. The other type is technically you're not really incel if you may identify as straight, but um, if you're passing up, hold on, do I have to, let me check something here. All right, I had to mute my feedback. I was not doing that, so hopefully it wasn't distorted. I didn't see anybody complaining though. So if you're straight, but you're passing up on bisexual or gay encounters, you're not really a true incel, right? I mean, beggars can't be choosers, right? So I know your thing is not men, but if that's what's coming around and you're passing it up, you're not a true incel. So I'd like to call this a fag cell, a fag cell. So nig cell and fag cell. These are two types of faux incels. Okay, so I'd like the credit. I'd please attribute that to me. Um, and you could have other branches. Nig cell is just kind of a catch-all term for people who want to date within their race. You could further splinter that into, you know, you know, greaserito cell, somebody who doesn't want to date greasy-haired Latino women, things like that. Okay, but I just use the term nig cell and fag cell. Okay, so say you have gay men at the gym coming on to you. Well, you can't claim to be a true incel if you don't take them up on their overtures. Okay, because like the motto of the 21st century: skin is skin, a hole is a hole, right? I mean, that's the credo of 2018. So those were some of the comments. Hmm, let's see. Oh, and then some of these people are just way that they're way they think I'm like over exaggerating things when somebody says like having an opportunity to have a 7.5 or 8 Asian or mixed woman by their side. Like again, this is getting at, well, you're not a true incel if you have racial what's the term? Racial, I wouldn't say racial loyalty, just racial preferences. Um and it's not, it's like you could say, well, that's kind of, if somebody had a weird thing for Hawaiian women and they lived in, the Midwest, you'd say, well, guy, you're going to be lonely quite a long time if you're only open to dating, women from the Polynesian Islands. You're in the Midwest. There aren't any. That's maybe more understandable where it's incongruent or inconsistent. But for a white person to only want to date other white people, that seems like a fairly, that's a fairly high bar to limbo under. It doesn't seem that difficult to achieve. But yeah, I mean, I probably would have better luck with. I think the term is ratchet black and Hispanic women, perhaps even really ratchet white women who live in the hood. I had a drive through uh, the colorful part of town a couple days ago uh, for just to go to some location, and it was a long trip through the colorful part of town. And this dovetails with my previous experience. Whenever I've been in a position where I've been in contact with, like, I guess the kids these days call it ratchet, like really ghetto type women, like from the hood, like the ones with the big hoop earrings. um they do seem to take a shine to me for some reason. um and this is like when they don't know of my academic background. Like, looking at me, they probably think I'm a bartender, bouncer, something along those lines. Okay. um because it doesn't jive with their mental image. They do these experiments all the time with children, and they do things like draw a scientist. And usually it's the kids initially draw like a skinny white guy with glasses and a lab coat, and then through social conditioning, they do an intervention, and after 6 weeks the kids are drawing a black woman as a scientist. So that's progress. But anyway, these people are in their 20s or 30s or whatever, 18, late teens, so they haven't been exposed to these types of social engineering interventions. So they don't look at me and think, somebody who's, very well educated. They still, look at me and think, oh, somebody on par economically or educationally or IQ wise with them. But, given my build, my physique, etc., I do seem to attract these ratchet type hood rats, I guess the term is. I'm not too familiar with the parlance that's typically used, but yeah. I've noticed this, whether they're black, Hispanic, sometimes white. Um, the ones like with the hoop earrings and that, they seem to like me. I don't know why, but and I don't like using that scale to rate women 1 to 10. I've been guilty of it myself, just for sort of illustrative purposes, but I don't like it. For me, it's either yes or no. A woman I find attractive or I don't. It's not, trying to differentiate between a 9 and a 10 and an 8 and a 7. That's very difficult for me. But rest assured, these couples that I mentioned with a white male, their female partner is not a 7.5 or 8. They get the dregs. That's what I've been saying. I'm not saying white men get the best of everything. I say white men get the dregs when it comes to Asian women. They do. It's unfortunate. Okay, I don't like having to admit that, but it's true. Okay, you could be 100-pound Chinese male who's 5'3", completely hairless, possibly never went through puberty, um, maybe is in a wheelchair, maybe is confined to a wheelchair, um, and you will have better luck with Chinese women, with Asian women, than a 6'4" blonde, blue-eyed surfer dude will have with Asian women. Okay, let's put it that way, or Korean women. We can use those interchangeably, Chinese or Korean women. Um, so yeah, um, these, and it's funny, true white male supremacy. It does rear its ugly head. You check out Roosh's Twitter page. What did he tweet a few hours ago? This is from, Roosh, a guy who runs Return of Kings, the big PUA guy. This is what he writes. This is, quote, Latino, Black, and Middle Eastern men barely notice hashtag Me Too. They love that predominantly white and Asian men are choosing MGTOW and internet activism instead of competing with them in the sexual marketplace. Again, this don't you dare lump Asian men in with white men. Okay, the most the men who are getting the most sex are Asian men. Okay, they put Jamal and Jose and Mahmoud to shame. Okay, Asian men are way out in front when it comes to relationship having, um, amount of sex that they're having. They're way out in front. Asian men are, especially Chinese and Korean men, um, Vietnamese men too. Um, whoever's in second place, it's a distant second. Okay, I mean, if it's Asian men are way out in front. They're way out in front of the pack, and Latino, Black, Middle Eastern, and white men, it's a toss up as to who's in second. Okay, okay, but it's, rest assured, it's a distant second place. So I don't know why. Let me look at the comments here. I don't know why Roosh lumps together Asian men with white men. No, no. Asian men are doing quite well. You can kind of notice from the complete lack of an Asian presence in the incel community, in the MGTOW community, especially given their population. I mean, you would expect, given the sheer number of Asian men in the world, the sheer number of Asian men in America, especially amongst the younger cohort, okay? Um, you would expect there to be a lot of Asian incels, a lot of Asian MGTOWs. I don't see it. They seem to be completely absent. Um, and somebody will cite Elliot Rodger, yeah, half white, half Asian, and he wasn't Chinese. His mother was from Indonesia, I believe. Uh, all right, sorry about that. I don't know why my headset cut out, but um, I would say Hispanic men, Latino men are in second. It's a distant second, but they're in second. You almost never see Hispanic man complaining they can't get a date in incel, in MGTOW. Chris Cantu was a HAPA. He was half Hispanic, half white. You go to New York City and you'll see these Central American, little brown bowling ball men, 4 feet tall, and they're working some shit job as a busboy, selling hot dogs out of a box on a bicycle with an umbrella. It doesn't even have a fucking license by the the food inspection, or the whatever it is that inspects the quality of restaurants in New York City from the health board. He's like selling fucking melted ice cream bars from that. He's got a wife and like 3 or 4 kids. He's clearing tables at a diner, and he's got a wife and kids. So the Hispanic community seems pretty functional. Less functional, you would say, perhaps than the Asians, in the way that they have, maybe more. They're more prone to crime and stuff. But uh, the upside is they have more children than the Asians. So it's sort of a trade-off. Um, Blacks and whites, it's it's distant. It's way beyond that. So I don't know why. I think he's sort of out of touch with reality. If you haven't been on a college campus recently, that might be, you might still be having this old mindset like, oh, sexless Asian nerd, can't get a date. No, you walk around college campus. I mean, it doesn't even have to be a college campus. Go to the restaurants by a college campus. Just anywhere there are young people. That's what I'm trying to say. Go to the Starbucks nearby. Go to a shopping mall. Okay, if you're in the Midwest, go to the nearest shopping mall. If you're in Minnesota, go to the Mall of America. Yeah, it's mostly white people, but who do you see in couples? It's going to be Asian couples walking hand in hand. So yeah, just some of these people who throw, oh, Asian men, they're doing so bad. No, they're not. Can't you tell from their complete lack of presence here? Um, let's see here. Um, and most of that video, Rosemary's Baby, wasn't talking about interracial couples. It was talking about either having defective children, special books by special kids, or adopting children, in which case the child is not yours, but you're laboring to provide for it, which seems, like I said, you're just signing up for labor and drudgery. And I like this comment, and I really wanted to address this one. Uh, his obsession with primarily between 16 and 20 is also unhealthy. And I think that's directed toward me, because I do talk about, ideally, dating younger women, and I wanted to address that. I'm well aware of, the laws. I am well aware of those, and that 16 to 20 comment really, it really got to me. It really hurt me because I know that teenage white girls exist for the pleasure of South Asian men. Okay, we see this all the time in European countries, especially, in England and Rotterdam, in the Netherlands, similar things have occurred, in Germany, etc. We know that teenage white girls exist for the pleasure of South Asian males, primarily Pakistani males, Afghan males. I understand that as a white man, that is a disgusting thought to even be attracted to a woman under the age of 35. I understand that as a white man, I should only be looking for women who have some patina on them, women who have, some scars, some battle scars, sort of like a whale in the, like a really old whale in the water. It's got like signs of the battles, the wounds of love that it has endured, like that Judas Priest song, "Sin after sin I've endured, but the wounds I bear are wounds of love." Um, that's a Judas Priest lyric. But like, if you ever like see like a whale that washes up on shore, and it's like a really old whale, it's got all of these battle scars. It's got like suction marks from a fight with a giant squid. It's got barnacles stuck to it. It's got scratches. It's got bite marks from a shark. It's got a lot of battle scars. Let's put it that way. As a white man, I understand that, I really should only be looking at women with some patina on them, women with some mileage on them. And I understand that, you know, teenage white girls are off limits to me. I understand that. They exist for South Asian men, Pakistani men, Afghan men, um, and I understand that, okay? And in fact, I understand it so well and that I'm thinking of starting a petition, and I hope I can count on you guys to sign it, where it would basically ensure that sex ed, sexual education, is taught in the public school system only by South Asian men. Okay, I want to see that happen because we know history shows us, the news shows us that we can entrust our teenage white girls to 40-year-old Pakistani men and they won't abuse that power. Okay, that's what we know. So I think it makes sense for your daughters, my future wife's future daughter, to learn about sex and her body from the most trustworthy source, which would be a Muslim South Asian man from Pakistan or Afghanistan. So I'm hoping, you guys will sign that petition. We need to get couple thousand signatures before it gets, bumped up for consideration. But, grassroots is the way to go. That comment really got to me. That comment really got to me because, as a white male, I know it's disgusting to even look at a white woman under the age of 35. Okay, I understand that. I understand that those teenage white girls exist exclusively for South Asian men. Okay, whether they're boyfriends, drug dealers, uh, groomers, uh, pimps, etc. We know that members of the religion of peace would never do that. Okay, they would never abuse white girls, white teenage girls, because think about it, we're all equal, right? And we owe Americans, white people, Westerners, Western Europeans, we have big hearts. Like we actually put other people's comfort and safety above our own people. So like people like in America, we want to bring in all these children and people, third world detritus from Mexico and Central America, and we want to take care of them, right? Like we want to give them stuff we won't even give homeless people in this country, like free shelter, free food, free medical care, etc. Um, and the same thing in Europe. We see like how Sweden and Germany, they're so eager to flood their countries and give them housing. They actually kick out like elderly citizens or poor people from their apartments. They even kick out college students from like the dormitories or the residence halls to make way for the new arrivals, for the migrants. And I'm sure it works both ways, right? Like if white people show such a degree of empathy for the other, I'm sure that the other shows so much empathy for white people, right? I mean, we're all the same, right? Universalism, universalism, people. We're all the same. So look at how magnanimous white people in Europe, in America are when it comes to wanting to take care of other people's problems. Okay, like yeah, give me how many millions of beaner children do you have? Like we will take care of them. Okay, we will force our people to work harder, pay more taxes, work longer hours to take care of your children. And the same thing in Sweden, the same thing in France, the UK, Netherlands, Germany, Italy, etc. They will take an infinite number of migrants. They will put them up in preferential housing. Yeah, this headset sucks. I'm gonna have to get a new one. Anyway, I'm just watching to see when it cuts out, and then I'll look at the messages, comments. So all those European countries, Scandinavia, the UK, Netherlands, Germany, Italy, they will take all the migrants, kick out their students from residence halls, kick out senior citizens, and put up the migrants. So I'm sure because we exhibit such concern for other people, It only stands to reason, right? It follows that because of universalism and the fact that we're all the same, that those people must similarly care about us. So why would they ever abuse our children? Okay, why would they ever abuse teenage white girls or traffic them or exploit them? It doesn't make sense, right? Like, because we're all the same. Like, people have to let go of this tribalism stuff. Okay, tribalism is so 1800s. Okay, get with the times, people. It's 2018. It's 2018. So let me look at the chat here. Uh, I don't know if there is anything to do about it. Um, oh, you could certainly make it worse. You could certainly make it worse instead of trying to make it better. And that might actually be more productive in the long run. You know, try to take it to absurd, an absurd extent. Like I said, put together a petition that would make sex ed taught only by 30 Pakistani men in their 30s or 40s, you know, and you would word it such that history shows that they are the most trusted. They have absolutely no interest in, you know, corrupting or abusing white teenage girls, and it makes sense to entrust white teenage girls to pot-bellied, mature, balding Pakistani men. Okay, it's just a coinky dink that they're also tied to, you know, the drug trade. You know, I mean, it's not like they would use drugs to get girls hooked and get them to do things in this type of vicious circle. No, 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 no. Come on, come on. They wouldn't do that. Okay. When they say groomer, they're talking about opening up a salon for dogs. Okay, come on, people. Why? Get your minds out of the gutter. Okay, Mahmoud from Pakistan and his 10 brothers. Uh, when they say that they're grooming bitches, they're talking about opening up a salon for female dogs. Okay, it's well known that Muslims in general, love dogs. Okay, they don't consider them filthy or dirty or anything. No, 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 no. It's well known that they do consider dogs filthy and dirty, and that's why they're opening up the pet grooming salons, because they're trying to clean up those bitches. They're trying to clean up those dogs. Okay, it all makes so much sense now. Okay, it makes sense now. Okay, so that is, you know, when they say, you know, Muslims consider dogs dirty, and you see, you know, Muslim men kicking dogs and beating them and killing them and stuff, um, it's because they consider them dirty. Islam considers dogs dirty. So it only makes sense that Muslim men are going to work as groomers. Okay, they want to make those dogs look clean and cute and have a nice little bow. So when Mahmoud says that he's a groomer of bitches, you know, it means he's focusing on female dogs. I don't know why he is focusing on female dogs. Seems kind of like you're cutting your market in half there. And when he says he's grooming white bitches, I don't know why he chooses just to focus on white female dogs. I mean, it seems like you're kind of, you know, shooting yourself in the foot there. But hey, you know, this is America. You know, people are free to do what they want. You know, so long as they follow the, as long as you follow the laws, right? Um, let's see. I just wanted to, you know, some of these things they really they struck me like a, you know, a barb. Uh, so I wanted to address those. Yeah, people just get a lot of things wrong about me. Somebody says that he wants his demure, silent 19-year-old white wife straight from the heartland of America. Uh, Demure and silent, no. Different, no. The demure and silent, no. Somebody with a personality who's bubbly and effervescent, I wouldn't describe as demure or silent. I would prefer somebody who's more, down to earth and has more family oriented and has a different set of objectives or goals in life than go to law school and advocate for abortion rights. Go to law school and focus on, protecting illegal migrants from ICE. Um, and then people always they use this insult about white trash. They're going to be trailer park Britneys and Beckys. Uh, I mean, I'm seriously considering when I move back to the Midwest to just live in a trailer park, because it makes more sense to me to live in a trailer park than to live in a big apartment. Okay, I've lived in apartments of different sizes. The largest one was like 700 square feet, and it was way too big for me. I mean, I had to buy extra furniture just to fill it. It was too big. It was needlessly big. Another apartment was like 450 square feet, and even that was a little too big. Even that, yeah, I really didn't need it. And I think the smallest one was my New York City apartment, where you had like a kitchen, which was big, and a bathroom, which was nice, but those don't factor into the square footage, I don't believe. And the one room was like 10 by 15. And I lived very comfortably in a 10 by 15. I mean, I'm like, I could be a fucking organizer for these people in New York, like how to stack things creatively. Um, 10 by 15, I had everything in there. I had my home office. I had a refrigerator. I had a queen size bed. Had at my clothes. Had everything. I mean, really everything I needed. So, 10 by 15, that'll do it. That'll do, pig. So, a trailer. Trailers are very cheap, and moreover, it's I mean, instead of buying a house, you can buy a trailer. You can rent a trailer instead of renting an apartment. But um, I don't know. There's always this tendency to, to criticize. Oh, somebody lives in a trailer park. I don't know. I'd probably kick it better with the people who live in a trailer park than I would with some yuppies living in some upscale neighborhood. I mean, maybe my academic pedigree would dovetail more along the lines of the yuppie white male ugly Asian female couple next door in the suburban area, but our views certainly don't mesh. Both of those people would be buying a ticket to the refugee banquet, and listening to NPR in their little eco hybrid as they carpool to work as lawyers or whatever the fuck they'll be doing. Um, you know, we could we put you down as a reference? We're trying to adopt a baby from Somalia, and we need 10 references of character. I'd be like, oh yeah, totally, totally. You guys are great. I would love to recommend to the adoption agency. Versus the people in the trailer where they'll fly like I mean, I've passed trailer parks and they had a Confederate flag flying. It wasn't even the South. This is in the Midwest. Um, people there, they have like a bunch of white kids running around. Um, Versus, you go to the suburbs or wherever, the upscale community, you go to the parts of Connecticut or whatever, wherever you say the really successful people live, Manhattan, New Jersey, uh, Connecticut, etc. Uh, they have like one kid's kind of like a fat kid's like a theater fag or something. I think maybe it's my long hair. I think there's a button on the back of the headset, and I think my hair's pressing that button, and it turns it off. Um, but you look at these successful couples in Connecticut or Manhattan, and they got like one kid. They had like that. They had that kid at like age 36. Kid's kind of stunted. He looks kind of like weak and shit. He wants to go to Oberlin or NYU for the theater program. He's a real theater fag. Um, maybe he gets into drugs or something, or he's some self-hating little piece of shit. Versus the trailer park, a couple may be uncouth, maybe alcoholic, maybe uneducated, whatever, but they got like 4 or 5 kids running around playing. Kids are healthy. Kids aren't, they don't have autoimmune disorders. They don't have weird fucking disorders never seen before to science. Yeah, he's our miracle baby. We're both lawyers, we're both corporate lawyers, and we both waited. This is the Connecticut couple. We both waited until we were all settled, 36 years old, and then we tried for 3 years to have a child, and this is our little miracle baby. After multiple rounds of IVF, we were able to get this 3 pound preemie. He lived underneath a heat lamp for a year and a half, like a hamburger patty. But he's kind of mildly cognitively impaired now, but we love him. He's our miracle baby. Meanwhile, back in the trailer, in Illinois or Indiana, a group of like 5 kids, running around, sitting down to dinner inside that trailer. Okay, I mean, you tell me who's winning at the game of life. Um, I do look like a biker, yeah. Well, an old like a biker from the '60s or '70s, like a Hell's Angel type. Not like these bikers today who are 65 years old and ride a you know $80,000 tricycle. uh, yeah, like a biker, like a Hell's Angels type person from the '60s. Um, but let's see here. Let's go through the comments. Yeah, I don't know why people put trailer parks down. They're good for a couple of reasons. They're very close knit in the sense that they're physically close together. So people always complain about in America that there's an isolation in the suburbs. That people don't know who their neighbors are, and that's true for the most part. Like you really don't know. But in the trailer park, I think there will be a greater connection for a couple of reasons. One, it's more compact. The trailers are closer together, which doesn't mean like, oh, you don't have a yard. Usually those trailer parks are surrounded by land. So you may not have a lot of land immediately around your you don't really have property outside your trailer, but usually the whole trailer park's surrounded by woods or something. So the other thing is people in a trailer park are probably very similar in terms of culture, beliefs, language, etc. Whereas I think in a neighborhood, it's just opportunistic. It's whoever puts in the highest bid. Whoever puts in the highest bid on the house, they get it. So you just kind of get a hodgepodge of people. They don't really relate to each other in any way. But in a trailer park, people I think are usually consciously choosing the trailer park lifestyle. I don't know if the trailer park lifestyle chooses you or you choose the trailer park lifestyle, but a lot of people, I think they have this, there's a stigma, so for the people who do choose to live in a trailer park, they're kind of indifferent to that label. They're, other people they want social proof. They're concerned with how people are viewing them. So I think people in a trailer park you have more of a sense of camaraderie. And I think definitely I would. Uh, yeah, I got to get a USB mic. I'll get that Yeti one, I guess. Seems to be the highly recommended one. Although some of those, they just look stupid. They're deliberately designed to look old, like something Orson Welles would have used during his War of the Worlds broadcast, like in 1938. Like it's like an old style something that they would find in an attic on a American Pickers. Uh, let's see here. I mean, a trailer park, right? A trailer park is in a sense almost like a kibbutz. right? An Israeli kibbutz. I mean, most kibbutzes are trailers, trailer parks. That's how they live in the Israeli settlements, in like the occupied, what is it called? Not the Gaza Strip. The What's the other part of Palestine? The Gaza Strip and the fuck Palestine. It's not something Heights, West Bank, and West Bank and Gaza Strip. Yeah. So I think they have a lot of the Israeli settlements in the West Bank, and those settlements are pretty crude. It looks like something from like Tatooine. They usually are trailers, like legit trailers on those kibbutzes, those settlements. So it's funny, right? It's funny how, on the one hand, people extol the intellectual superiority the uh, of the Jew, especially the Ashkenazi Jews. But those Jews who are like Zionists, they live inside trailers, like the most fervent, uh, most what is the term? Yeah, the most zealous of the Zionists. They do live in trailers in pretty Spartan conditions. Um, and at the same time, they mock people, they ridicule Americans who live in trailer parks as rubes and bumpkins and idiots. So it's weird. We got like people at both sides of the spectrum. The Jewish savants are living in the kibbutz trailers, and then the broken down, opioid addicted white trash, quote, quote, air quote, white trash people also live in trailers. Hmm. So both types of people live in trailers. That's interesting. Not the Golan Heights. The Golan Heights is Syria. Uh, but yeah, let me see if there were any comments. But and again, just like I want to reiterate, I'm coining these new terms, nigcel and fagcel. Somebody else writes, even so, I take a fat ass Latina or even some Caribbean chick over nothing. If nothing else, having an average woman changes your mindset and helps scale your morality and mortality, lightens your mood. I disagree with that. If you're not actually physically attracted to the woman you're with, it's going to be worse for your psyche, because every time you're out with her and you take stock, you take notice of those other couples, um, you're going to feel even worse, because if you're not actually attracted to the woman you're with, and you're going to be looking around with envy, at those guys who are shorter than you, less well educated than you. All you have all of these traits that you were told your whole life women liked, and then you're like perplexed. You look at these couples, and this guy, whatever his race is, white or Asian, he has a better looking woman, a woman that you actually find attractive, than the girl that you're presently with. So this idea of settling for something, it's not going to be good for your self-esteem or your ego if you're not actually attracted to her. Some guys recommend that. They're like, "Oh, jump on the grenade, take one for the team, do whatever it takes." Uh, you know, Somebody was in a slump, so they decided to get with a fat chick. All of these kind of statements, I don't think it's productive. I don't think it's going to make you feel better. It's not going to really make you feel better about yourself. It'll probably make you feel worse, because you'll be out, and I've been in a position like this. Like I said, I've mostly dated Asian women. One was beautiful, but that was a rarity, and she was married, and she was looking for an affair. So she had she wanted, she had a list of things in life, probably. I'm speculating that she wanted to accomplish, and having an affair, typical ennui of, married life. How do we shake it up? So, all right, yeah, we definitely will have to get a new mic. Funny, because this one was the most recommended. Um, seems mostly good for listening, not so much for speaking. But um, the one Asian girl I was with was who was beautiful. I mean, objectively beautiful. She did it. That was she was married. She was looking to spice things up with an affair. The other Asian girls less attractive and older, and definitely you do when you're out with them just walking going somewhere, you can't help but notice. You look around and you'll see a much better looking girl, a girl that you actually do find attractive, and they're in the company of some putz. And again, there's always this tendency. People always love to stick up for the little guy. They always do. They always, well, maybe they really love each other. You don't know. Maybe he's a great guy. You don't know either. Maybe he's a fucking asshole. Maybe a turd is just a turd. I've said this before. Sometimes a turd is just a turd. It's like that Sigmund Freud quote. Sometimes a cigar is just a cigar, because it was people were saying like part of his theory was what penis envy, or the what was it called, the penis fixation stage, where the phallic stage, where people were, I don't know what was Freud's theory. People were gobbling cock-shaped objects when they were children. The phallic stage, like they it's like it was like Seth in Super Bad. Do you know how many types of foods are shaped like dicks? The best kinds. The phallic stage, according to the preeminent Jewish psychologist Sigmund Freud. Sometimes a cigar is just a cigar. Well, sometimes a piece of shit is just a piece of shit. People in America, I don't know if it stems from this David versus Goliath, slave morality complex, or what. Um, but people really have this tendency to ascribe virtue to ugly people. And somebody will be like a midget and ugly, and they got like a scrunched up face, and they're just ugly. Okay, ugly, short, whatever. And the tendency is always to ascribe some virtue to them. They're like, well, maybe he's really funny, maybe he's a really sweet guy. And then conversely, anytime there's like a really good looking guy, a tall guy, a fit guy, muscular, whatever, the tendency is always to denigrate him. Well, he's probably very vain. He's probably got a big ego. He's probably very self-centered. He's probably a jerk. He's probably a fuckboy. No, no, no. Sometimes a turd is just a turd. Sometimes there is no redeeming value in a person. Okay? If somebody looks like a turd, perhaps their personality is also subpar. Perhaps they are a possessive, controlling jerk. It's this unique thing. I don't know if it's unique to America or Western thought, but there's this tendency to always try to, to find some, I don't know, what is the term? Complementary. Everything balances out. Well, he's real short and pathetic looking, and he's balding and this and that. But oh, he must be really funny. He must be really. He must be a great guy. He must be really supportive. No, no. I mean, why do you think that? For every YouTube video where they find like some 2 foot midget, born without a face, and he's saying something like, I'm so grateful for life. I just take it day by day, and it's so inspiring. I'm sure for every one of those, there are like 100 who are just, their condition has left them so bitter and angry, and, just seething with hatred for the world. You know what I mean? Like some midget in a wheelchair with no face. And he's just an evil, person. His hatred has consumed him. Uh, so it's probably social conditioning when they trot out these videos. And again, it's always some like it's a burn victim. It's somebody who's lost all their legs in a landmine or a fucking car accident, and you would think they'd be like real jaded and jaundiced and bitter, but and cynical about the world. But it turns out, oh, they got such a shooting victim, somebody from Columbine who got like their face shot off, and they're like they're real happy for life. They're real positive and upbeat. I think that's where it comes from. And the opposite's true too. Anytime there's like a good looking man handsome, takes care of himself, has his shit together, well educated. Oh, he's a player. He's a fuck boy. He must be very vain. He must be very controlling. He must be a jerk. No, maybe that hunchback who looks like what was his name? Toulouse-Lautrec, um, from France. He was like a ugly hunchback, Toulouse-Lautrec. Um, Sometimes those are the controlling, nasty people. Okay, and maybe that guy who's good looking or handsome or he's funny or whatever. Maybe he's got other positive traits too. Why do you always assume he's a bastard? So Uh, that's what gets to me is when you see like some couple and it's like just some this is some famous example. I think I learned of it. I don't know, probably on Return of Kings. There's in France, it's some very attractive female like news anchor, and she's married to like a half Moroccan. I guess he's a comedian, but he's very ugly. He looks like a Moroccan version of Mickey Dolenz. For those of you who don't know, Mickey Dolenz was the drummer for the band The Monkees. And Mickey Dolenz is very unattractive. He's got like a scrunched up face, like he's bitten into a lemon. And so he looks like that, like a puckered, soured face, scrunched up face, the curly hair. In addition, he's very short, and this Moroccan or Algerian comedian has like a gnarled arm, sort of like Kaiser Wilhelm II, like a little flipper hand. And people were like saying, "See, that's what a true alpha's like, bro. She's with him because he's a Moroccan stud. He's a Moroccan alpha." I can guarantee you there are 6'4" guys who are working out in the gym in Morocco or Algeria right now, and they see a photo of that and they're going, "What the fuck? What the fuck?" Um, so no, she's not with him because he's an alpha stud from Morocco. If she wanted an alpha stud from Morocco, she could go over there and I'm sure find some 6'4", 6'5" Moroccan working out, or Algerian or whatever the fuck the guy's name was, or wherever he was from, working out in the gym. This guy is not an alpha. Like I said, sometimes a turd is just a turd. Perhaps she chose him not despite his ineptitude or despite his beta-ness or despite how pathetic he is, but because of those traits. That's what people can't get through their fucking minds over on these sites like Chateau Artiste and Return of Kings. They're like, well, he's got a flipper hand, he's 5'2", he's got a scrunched up face like Mickey Dolenz, but he gets this beauty of a French news anchor, so he must be real alpha. See, that he must have a firm pimp hand. He must have a 10-inch dick. No, no, he's pathetic through and through. He's got his sea lion hand. He's got his scrunched up uh, sour patch facial expression. He's got his short stature. She chose him because he's so pathetic. Not because he's got a heart of gold, not because he's a great guy. She chose him because he's so wretched and pathetic. Okay, don't be making these claims that just because he's from Algeria, he's a real man. If this French actress or news anchor wanted a real stud and it had to be a Moroccan stud, like I said, I guarantee you right now in gyms across Algeria, Morocco, whatever, there are these huge guys working out in the gym and they're like, what the fuck? She's with this little Mickey Dolenz character and I'm here in the gym working out alone. What the fuck is this? So, like I said, sometimes a turd is just a turd. Don't ascribe virtue where there is none. You presuppose somebody is virtuous just because they're short of build, they're weak, they've got a disability. Sometimes these are the most vindictive, nasty, hate-filled people you could imagine. Okay? I mean, isn't that more likely to be true? Wouldn't they be cynical and having a black cloud hanging over their head the whole time because they were born like with some Yeah, isn't that more likely than the opposite? If somebody is like, they have progeria or something that makes them age prematurely, and they're always so upbeat. They're always so upbeat for the camera. They're like, oh, I just take every day. Every day is a blessing. No, usually they're the vindictive ones. They're probably like most of them. Okay, not the ones they trot out for the camera. Most of them are probably real bastards. Okay, like anytime they can just fuck with people, like close the elevator doors on them, or step on a bug, or run over an animal if they can drive, if their feet can reach the pedals, or if they can, drive their car with their mouth or whatever. I'm sure they take it. I'm sure they take it. So again, there's this weird tendency in the West to, and I don't know if it extends elsewhere. I don't know if it's in other cultures, but it's like a striving for harmony. Like everybody has a set number of virtues, and everybody, it evens out. So somebody's physical virtues, if they're gifted or blessed in that regard, it must mean that they're lacking when it comes to personality, temperament. Oh, he's big and muscular. He must be hot-headed. He must have a bad temper. No, actually, that must mean he's pretty responsible and even-headed, because it shows he's consistent, he's reliable, he goes to the gym regularly. I would say the fat guy with a pot belly, far from being, oh, he's a good provider. I would say he's a glutton. He's not dependable. He's selfish because he's a fucking glutton. But no, that's not how people think. People always think, it's a trade-off. Somebody who's good looking must be must be stupid. They must be an airhead. Meanwhile, somebody who looks like Woody Allen has instant credibility. He's given, you know, everybody presumes he's a genius, just based on looks. So let's look at the comments here. Uh, Somebody says, let's see. I'm 6'3", never helped me with young millennial women, only older Gen X and baby boomers. Yep. The women I've dated have, most of them were just on the cusp, like Gen X or millennial. They were like 82, like 5 years older than me. Yeah, like 5 years older than me. So right on that brink, that cutoff mark. Um, Let's see. Yeah, women want weak men that they can control. I think that is it. Women want kids by weak men because she knows they'll always be dependent on her. The only way she can be alpha is by making everyone else beta. And see, that's what flies in the face of all of this evolutionary biology shit. All of these people, and it's like listening to, I don't know, like Charles Darwin talk to Richard Dawkins, and it's just like this fucking feedback loop. It just feeds back on itself. And none of this stuff applies when you see these people saying it's all about women securing the best genetic material for their progeny. Have you not seen how weak children are today? Have you not seen that? Like how many health conditions they are? A lot of these children have to live under a heat lamp like a lizard, for the first few months of their lives. Um, Everything that can go wrong is going wrong with these children. They're not hardy by any stretch of the imagination. They're fucking weak, have all these weird conditions. They need all of these dispensations. Oh, my child's autistic. My child's retarded. My child's a transgender. I mean, if women were concerned with having very hardy, viable offspring, we wouldn't be seeing this profusion of weakness and celebration of defectiveness. I mean, look at the new Gerber's baby mascot. Okay, people love having defective children, especially women. Especially women. You think women want some strong, strapping son to be successful in life? No, they're perfectly content having a retard, having a fucking jellyfish, this gelatinous blob for a child just sits there. It's like a fucking perma puppy. It never grows up, never changes, never accomplishes shit. Just consumes. Okay, just sucking up resources. Um, So no, okay, women are not secretly getting railed by the rugby player in the back alley and then cucking their little bald accountant husband into raising the rugby player's child, by deceiving him into doing it. And the little bald Melvin's like, well, when the child's like growing and as like 12 or 13, and the little Melvin is like, well, I never exhibited any prowess when it came to athletics, but boy, our son sure grew like a beanstalk, didn't he? And then Honey gives him like there's like this twinkle in her eye because she knows the truth. No, she's breeding with the Melvin. She's breeding with the Melvin, and her child is going to be a Melvin. Okay, if you breed with a short, bald man who never exhibits creativity, and again, like I said, masculinity is not just physical. Okay, it's not just who's the tallest, who's the biggest. It's, is he creative? Is he successful? Does he create things? Whether that's artwork, whether it's literature, whether it's he's doing something. He's the best at something. Okay. Well, no. Most of the time, it's, as we've rehashed. It's a schlubby hubby who's completely unremarkable, doesn't really have any hobbies, any passions. That's the best way to describe one of these guys. Lacking in passion. Lacking in passion. Just kind of drifts along like a piece of driftwood carried by the current. Um, Very unremarkable. Uh, Very ordinary. Well, that's your child. That's your future child. So I don't buy any of this talk that women are secretly on the hunt. It's like that Leonard Skinner song, "On the Hunt," for the best genes possible. No, 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 no. I don't see it. I think it's a race to the bottom. I think it's a race to the bottom. The women want weak, weak men, and their children are going to be weak. So it's like, how much should I allow this to distress me? It's at some point okay, yeah, your child's a ball of flubber, but you had one fucked up kid, and then you decided to, what are the odds it'll happen twice in a row? Well, pretty high. You shouldn't have gone for that second. Put your hand in the scorpion bottle twice. Well, you got stung twice, stupid. Um, it's like, how much compassion can you have for these people? You know, and people are saying something. I focused on adopting black children. Well, that's only because I'm speaking in modern times. Back 20 years ago, or no more, 30, like I would say 30 years ago, because I went to school in a small Midwestern town, so you could imagine it was more prevalent, bigger cities. I went to school with a Korean girl, but she was adopted. She was adopted by white parents, very wealthy, mind you, very wealthy. They lived in a mansion. Very wealthy white parents, who's, I guess, had cobwebs in their uterus, um, or the guy's dick didn't work. So they adopted her. I think probably from North Korea. I don't know if because then they have famines and stuff like that. Back in like the 80s and late 80s, early 90s, I think adopting Asian babies was all the rage. But now those countries, Korea, China, are doing much better economically, and you can't find an Asian baby anymore. Okay, they are off the market. People wanted Asian babies, and the wait list is like you would not believe. It's like for a heart transplant. Okay, you're not going to find an Asian baby. You're just not. Um, so now it's more common to adopt, children from Africa, etc. But 20, 30 years ago, it was Asians, Korean girls or Chinese girls, because the girls were unwanted. Remember, the girls were unwanted, and they still are. And people focused on the wrong thing in that video, Rosemary's Baby. Um, I talked about having a mixed race child that looks nothing like you. That's even worse if it's a daughter. I mean, I don't know how to relate to women now at my age. Okay, how the fuck am I going to relate to a girl 35 years younger than me if I had a daughter? So no, I wouldn't want a daughter. And for people out there, especially for my one or two female listeners, oh, that's so awful. You wouldn't want a female child? You wouldn't want a daughter? No. And why should I apologize? Do you know how many cultures are patriarchal? I think there's just like a timeout on my headset that if I don't touch it, like if I don't adjust something on it, it just turns off. So I think maybe it's a simple fix. Just turn off the timeout feature. But why should I apologize for saying I would not want a daughter? Do you know how many societies and cultures on this planet have explicitly the same sentiment? They only want male heirs. They only want male offspring. They only want sons. And this is not limited to the primitive goat herders or the primitive tribes people. This is in academia, okay, where I had to work with, say, Chinese and Koreans. And we were in a meeting, and one of the older Korean researchers had a baby with his wife, and he was excited that it was a son. And the professor explained to me, because I'm a dumb round eye and I don't know shit, that in Korean culture it's preferred to have a male child, that having a son is very important in Korean culture. You can't have that preference though, white man. You can't have that. That's not for you. Okay? That's only for, same thing in India, Pakistan. That's why even when they come to Western countries like Canada, they continue to have sex selective abortion. If they find out that they're carrying a female, they abort it. And so they skew the gender ratio, not just back at home, but once they come to like Canada, they've done studies where the ratio is being skewed in places like Vancouver and Toronto. So it's interesting that other cultures can openly comment that they want a male heir, they want sons. But as a white man, I'm a monster for saying that. I'm a monster for saying I can't relate to women now. I don't see how I could relate to a woman 35 years my junior, and most likely I won't have anything in common with her. Okay, it's going to be my hobbies, history, astronomy, philosophy. Those are entirely lost on a female. Okay, whereas with a son, I could probably be, playing Legos with him, playing Lincoln Logs, going, bringing out the me telescope, things like that, things of that nature, right? Um, I'm a monster for pointing that out. I'm a monster. But if you're from Pakistan, Korea, China, that's their culture, bro. That's their culture. Okay, don't be judging, don't be hating. Okay, but you have to accept the gender, whatever it is, even if you can't relate to it. It's like, okay, I have a daughter. I guess now I have to spend from the time she turns in her tweens to the time she's 34, I have to play goalkeeper. I have to be the gatekeeper and be shooing away all the penises that are trying to get past the goalpost. And I have to be telling her, go change. That's too revealing. I have to do that for fucking 25 years. Yeah, I'd love to do that. I'd love to spend a quarter century uh shooing away the peeners. Um but so I can't express the desire to have sons or only sons. But if you're from Pakistan, India, China, Korea, even probably some parts of Africa, they probably prefer to have male children. But people say, well, those are primitive tribes. Okay, well, not South Korea, not China, not India, not really. Especially not the ones who are well educated and come here. But they're still allowed to express a preference for a male heir, because that's their culture. But you can't, white man. You can't do it. Not allowed. Not allowed. Uh, yeah. I'm of the mindset I don't see black men doing well. I don't see white men doing well. And you'd say, okay, but your views are based on, okay, you're on college campus. Maybe there aren't too many black males on college campus. So, obviously you're not seeing many. No, it's even like when I go to malls. When I go to malls and I'll see like a group of black males and they'll be hanging out with each other. They're not with many women. There are no women with them. Or I had to do this long drive through the colorful part of town, and I didn't see any couples. Or if I did, it was a very unattractive woman. Uh, black woman with a guy, but it's like a form of sexual segregation has taken place between men and women, and that's what it is. It is sexual segregation. All this talk about racial segregation. What about sexual segregation? And this is allowed. It's weird. Like people they throw out this shitty advice like go on Meetup, for me or anybody else who's struggling, and they're like, oh, just you got to join like a Meetup group. A lot of those or LinkedIn group or whatever. A lot of these groups, these networking groups or whatever, on Meetup, they are exclusively for women. They're like networking groups for women, athletic leagues for women. Uh, they don't want men joining. They really don't. And it's weird. Like you couldn't create well, unless you're a minority. If you're Asian, they do have these groups on like Meetup, and it's like Asian American speed dating club, Asian American outdoor activity league. Oh, it's a way to help other Asian Americans get together. You tried doing that shit, white organization. It's not gonna fly. It'll be shut down instantly. Um, but sexual segregation of groups is permitted. That's totally cool. Single sex residence halls, single sex networking events, single sex gyms. They have female only gyms in my town and in New York City as well, because I guess the women were made to feel uncomfortable. So that's weird. It's not like you could have okay, this gym's only for white people. We are only going to play heavy metal. No blacks allowed, no Asians allowed. Sorry, that wouldn't fly. But sexual segregation does. So yeah, so that's what we have. We have sexual segregation. Um, I think you're going to see more of it. You already do, and it's just inconsistent. You have they never would put men and women in the same like dormitory. It could be like on the same floor, but not in the same room. But if your roommate happens to turn out gay, you can't ask for a change because that's bigoted. So the logic is a man and a woman can't live together because the man is going to be yanking on his pecker all day, looking at the woman. But you can put a straight man in with a gay man and nothing untoward will happen because another master stroke by the media machine is notice how anytime gays are mentioned, it's always in the context of love. What's your problem, bro? Why can't you just let people love whoever they want? Love sees no color. Love don't care. Love is great. Okay, just it's let people love whoever they want. Whereas with heterosexuals, it's always about sex. It's never love when it comes to heterosexuals. Notice that? Notice that? Like anything like a gay marriage, they just want to, why are you trying to criminalize love, man? Doesn't the world need more love, not less? You know, uh, don't you want to, you don't want gay people to adopt children? What's the matter? Gay, that child just needs some love. Anytime it comes to homosexuals, it's always followed with love. Love is pure. Love is love is pure. It's not dirty, it's not tawdry, it's just so pure. And then with heterosexuals, it's always sex. It's never love. Notice that. Anytime there's talk about heterosexuals, it's always about some marauder, some rapist, he's brushing up against women on the subway. He's grinding on women. He's copping a feel. He's raping somebody. With heterosexuals, it's always about sort of like slithering through the ooze. Okay, it's always about the dirty underside of things, the seamy underside. But gay people, by the way the media portrays it, gay people don't even actually have sex. If you've noticed, gay people are more concerned on listening to NPR, adopting children, going to their child's ballerina recital, being the best parents ever, baking cake, baking the best cake for their child's birthday party. They don't ever have sex. No, no, gay people are not having sex. They're too busy being good parents. Okay. Yeah, that's what you would believe anyway from the commercials and the television shows. So anytime they talk about heterosexuals, it's always about somebody slinking through the shadows. They got one hand on their pecker, they got like a syringe, a roofie in their other hand. It's weird, right? It's weird. Uh, let's see. But it's a masterful media campaign that's been waged. Like sex and gay people have been completely divested from each other. They've been completely separated. You would never even think of gay people or lesbians or same-sex partners in a sexual way. It's like they just love each other. They just love each other. Um, but with heterosexuals, it's all about hookups. It's all about fucking. Um, yeah, and with heterosexuals, I mean, I don't even, like I said, I can't tell oftentimes what the context of a heterosexual couple is. I don't know if they're a couple. I don't know. Sometimes I'm a bad guess of age, and like the guy she's with looks way too young to be her father. Looks way too young to be her father. I mean, I guess he could have done it if he was like 16 and he aged well. Other times, I can't tell if it's her gay best friend. I can't tell if it's her brother. There's just nothing to go by. There's no, oh, like just something small, a small touch, a small pat. Okay, she's sitting on his lap. There's a peck on the cheek. There's nothing, and it's like I can't tell. I can't tell what these people are, and you see it everywhere. Whether it's out on the street, at the gym, in the grocery store, you can't tell what they are. I mean, at least like in the 70s or something, like people would walk with their, what did they do? They like walked with their hand in each other's back pocket, or in the 60s they'd hold each other's hand or something. I mean, there'd be some display, something to let you know what it is you're seeing. And with Western couples, I can't tell. With Eastern couples, you can. They're holding hands. They're doing something. So they're going grocery shopping together. They're doing something as a couple. But with white people, it's I can't tell. I can't tell what I'm looking at. Um, but it's weird because like if I had the few times I did have a girlfriend, I definitely did those things. I held hands and um, I was affectionate in public and stuff like that. So it's like, why wouldn't you be? I mean, are these people so jaded and so, they've been in relationships so many times, it's like, it's all, it's all old hat to them, it's all old hat. So there's nothing to do, maybe, but it's weird, and I remember like when I was like 14 or something in high school, 15, um, they banned PDA, public displays of affection, meaning they would not. They were cracking down. Like you could be sent to detention for smooching in the hallways, and I don't know why they did that. Was it to make the people without a partner feel like less of a loser? Was it to I don't know. Was it, did it offend the sensibilities of some of the ultra religious people? I don't know why a display of healthy heterosexuality should offend these so much. Or, now that I think back, was it the first step in conditioning heterosexuals to be less demonstrative, be less affectionate with each other, and to basically start building that division between the sexes, to start building that wall between the sexes. Um, because this is a long time ago. I mean, you're talking almost 18 years ago, 17 years ago. And what was that the first seed, to that division where, okay, heterosexual couples, we don't want to see you holding hands or kissing in the hallways or, during lunch break. We don't want to see that. Oh, okay. So basically, you've neutered people. We're all going to be eunuchs. We're all going to be comrades. So that was the first thing. And well, you flash forward 15, 18 years, and it's like, yeah, I never see any heterosexual interaction. Not like I used to. Not like I fucking remember seeing when I was 13 or 14 and a fucking girl would be sitting on some guy's lap and he'd be sitting on the, I don't know, ledge of some, thing around, he's sitting on the table or whatever, or in his chair. There's like nothing. No holding hands, no kissing, no nothing. Um, and again, this is not me being, oh, he's a bitter failure with women. No, if it were just me that wasn't getting in on the PDA, I would say, yeah, it's my fault. But when I look around and I don't see any PDA, I don't see any public display of affection between Westerners, and I see it only amongst Easterners, that tells me there's a problem. Um, so that's what it comes down to is I think they started to condition people, 15, 16 years ago, saying, hey, no PDA, no public touching, like no public touching. And then what did they prime us for? Prime us for a world with gay pride parades where people walk around naked or wearing like, you know, assless chaps and they're like grinding on each other on parade floats. Like you went from this strict, I don't even think in Victorian times they would tell a couple not to smooch. I mean, I think that was pretty innocent. I mean, how many fucking impressionistic paintings, watercolors of some, by Monet and Manet or whatever, where you see some couple on the Parisian Boulevard underneath an umbrella. I mean, those people are having more PDA than a teenage couple does nowadays, than teenagers do nowadays. And those paintings were from the fucking 1800s. So I don't think the Victorian times were like, oh, hey, oh, she's showing her ankle. You can't be holding hands. No, I think you could. I think you could. Um, but that was the first step in sowing the division between the sexes. But it goes deeper than that too, and you only kind of notice it in retrospect. And I've talked about this in some of my other videos. You look at the literature, and people would say, well, books are wholesome. Books are chosen because of their literary merit. They're chosen because, it was a masterwork of English. No, no, that's what they claim, but it's not true. You think it's just a coincidence that every book that examines a heterosexual relationship is dysfunctional, casts the man in a negative light? Think about this. Think about uh, who wrote Nathaniel Hawthorne. Nathaniel Hawthorne's The Scarlet Letter. And I've talked about this before. This was written in 1840. It's set in Puritan New England. It's the story of Hester Prynne, a woman who has to wear a scarlet letter, the crimson A on her breast because she committed adultery. She had a child while her husband was lost at sea. He was on a voyage harpooning whales. He never came back. She gave birth to a child, Pearl. Nobody knew who the father was, so she's an outcast. Her estranged missing husband comes back years later, like 10 years later. He's been missing. His ship was shipwrecked. He was captured by Indians because this is set like in 1640. Um, and he comes back under a disguise. And he's trying to figure out who the father of this bastard daughter is and who his wife had cheated on him with. And and basically the moral of the story is we're made to feel sorry for Hester Prynne because she committed adultery. She couldn't keep her fucking legs closed when her husband was out at sea trying to capture whales and being taken prisoner and tortured by Indians. She got that itch. She had to scratch it. We're made to feel sorry for her because society has shunned her and her beautiful child. Of course, the child, the product of sin, must be beautiful. Of course, what does she name her child? Pearl. Pearl. A pearl is what? A pearl is a perfectly round jewel, an opalescent jewel found inside what? Inside a clam, right? Inside a clam. Um, so the product of sin is given, is attributed these positive virtues. She's beautiful. She's pure. She's a pearl. She's she's priceless. She's so valuable. She's a pearl, okay, product of sin, right? And I mean, it comes out that she had actually fucked the town reverend, the town minister. It's like the one person who you should expect not to fuck a married woman. But we're made to feel sorry for him, the minister, the reverend. We're made to feel sorry for Hester Prynne, and we're made to feel anger at the husband. He comes back under the name what? Roger Chillingsworth? Chillingsworth, under an assumed name because he's trying to figure out, he's in disguise. His name is Chillingsworth, so you can imagine he's a very nasty, nasty person. And there are other examples too. Henrik Ibsen's A Doll's House. It's a play, feminist play from Norway from the 1800s. And the premise of that is a woman becomes disillusioned with family life, her loutish husband, and she ends up walking out on her husband and her family, just walks out on him, leaves her family behind, leaves her children behind in order to find herself. Um, think of Tennessee Williams' A Streetcar Named Desire. And it's all about like the dysfunction between what Stella and Stanley. Stanley is like this abusive drunk. He like physically abuses his wife Stella. So again, all the relationships between men and women are seen as dysfunctional. They're seen as dysfunctional. The men are seen as vindictive, vengeful pricks. They're seen as drunks. They're seen as uh, wife beaters. And these are the books that are always, I guarantee you, go on any website for the high school in your local community and check out the summer reading list for the various grades. These books that I mentioned will be on those lists. I guarantee it. And there are other books too, but the message is always the same. Okay, it's never like wouldn't what about the Scarlet Letter in a different universe where the woman remains faithful and chaste and her husband returns home and they're both so excited they haven't seen each other in years, but they held out and they were reunited. What about that? Like, why did that version never get published? Why is every book always painting heterosexual relationships as dysfunctional with the women as victims? They are being oppressed by having a family. They're not fulfilled by having a family. There's something missing. There's something missing. You got to find out what. And you think this is just by happenstance? This is just all the good writers have the same belief system. Oh, okay. No, they choose. They cherry pick these books. Okay, they cherry pick these books. There are many other books of equal or greater literary merit that just get passed over. They get consigned to the dustbin. They get forgotten about. But these books always are there. They're always on the summer reading list. And think about it. You're having 14, 15, 16, 17-year-old children read these books. And what is the message that they come away with? It's that family is bad, family is oppressive, women are better off without men, all men are evil, all men are vindictive, cold, loutish, alcoholic, drunks, prone to violence. Isn't that interesting? Isn't that interesting? Um, But I'm saying if when people say like, oh, there's nothing you can do about it, there's nothing you can do about it. Well, you could, right? Like I know you don't have children, but what you could do is, and this is a cheap solution, you talk about how can we compete with, entities, corporate entities that have, billions and billions of dollars at their disposal. Well, a very low cost, and this is something that would not get you in trouble with authorities. We always hear these things like news stories when they find, and it's a very innocuous poster. It's like check out American Renaissance or something, uh, or it'll be for Generation Identitaire, the identitarian movement for Europeans, and it'll be classified as hate speech. On these posters are found on college campuses, like on the poster boards, and they launch like a whole inquiry. Like they look at like security cam footage. Who is this person? Who's posting these things? It's hateful for white people to want to have a white student union for some reason. But you could do it in a way that flies underneath the radar by not mentioning race at all. And you could just put together a flyer, okay? You print off 25, 50 copies, costs you nothing. You have a laser printer, right? You print off 25, 50 copies, and you just provide the information that I just told you about, okay? About the message behind Henrik Ibsen's A Doll's House, Nathaniel Hawthorne's The Scarlet Letter, Tennessee Williams' A Streetcar Named Desire. Oh, you find a few other examples. And you put in big bold letters at the top, your teachers have an agenda. And you hand these out, and you can do it. It's completely legal. I remember there were like missionaries or priests who would hand out free Bibles after school, like when the bell would ring, and they would stand not on college, not on school grounds. They were on the sidewalk, and they would say, please take one, and you could say no, thank you, or whatever, or take one. So long as you're not forceful, and so long as you're not on school property, you can do this. Uh, and you hand this out, and you basically would say, look, you may be legally children, but you have a capable mind. You are adults. We want you to think critically. We want you to call out your teachers. We want you to, in the words of Rage Against the Machine, fuck you, I won't do what you tell me. Why ask your teachers, why is every book designed to sow discord and rancor and distrust between the sexes? And see, that way you're not talking about race at all. So they can't slap you with any supremacist label. Why is it that in every one of these books it's a dysfunctional relationship? And then, I'm sure if you find any book on homosexuals, now I haven't read any. They may be pushing this in schools. I don't know. I guarantee you those relationships are filled with tenderness and love. I guarantee you any books that feature gay couples or lesbian couples, there's never any fighting, there's never any cheating, there's never any adultery, there's never any abuse. They're always they're always perfect. They're always, tranquil. Um, they're always, they're very, very calm. They're very loving, very, filled with romance. But with straight couples, oh, they're always abusive, always abusive. So just, I mean, think about that. Every town has a couple of high schools. You check out, okay, students are released at this time. Stand at a corner, say, hey, can I talk to you for a sec? Your teachers are lying to you. Your teachers have an agenda. Take this flyer, man, please. And you drive around the next day. You hit up another high school. You hit up another one. Okay? You could reach hundreds and hundreds of people each week. Now, that's a big impact because, unless they happen to come across a channel like this or something similar, they're never going to find out. It was only in retrospect that I realized, ooh, all of these books had a common theme. They really didn't portray heterosexuals in a very good light, did they? So, I think I don't know how it used to be, but I think now the teachers try to be like friends with the students, and the teachers are often pretty young, so maybe it's not as it used to be, but it used to be kind of the kids were young and the teachers were much older, so it might have been easier for them to take issue with the teachers. Now it might be a bit harder because the teachers are trying to be cool and be your friends, but I still think you can structure it. Look, your teachers have an agenda, whether they know it or not. Okay, the book, they don't choose the books. The school board chooses the books. Well, then they're complicit. Okay, they are complicit in programming you at a very sensitive age when your minds are developing. They're sowing this seed of distrust. Like, oh, when I read Tennessee, and it's not just the books you read. They choose what plays to put on, and sometimes they write their own plays because they're theater fags. But other times they'll do their own rendition of a play, like A Doll's House or A Streetcar Named Desire, and it's the same premise. Okay, you can check out that episode of The Simpsons where Marge is getting involved with the play, and the play is A Streetcar Named Desire. and she uses her anger of Homer to, build her character of Stella. So she's like smashing a beer bottle, and then she's like trying to knife Ned, who's playing the role of Stanley or something. I forget the exact plot, but anyway, the premise is of that men are drunks, they're abusive, etc. And that's the play. That's the message. So everybody who comes and watches the play, what do they leave with? What do they leave with? It's subtle. I mean, in ways, it's subtle how they do it, but it's still very effective. So when you say, "Well, there's nothing that you can do," yes and no, yes and no. I mean, what I'm saying, I mean, the state of Israel did not form overnight. The state of Israel was formed because people were very committed to the cause. Okay, and they started off very low. Theodore Herzl, the Zionist movement, they they lived on the kibbutz. Very kind of limited resources and trailers and stuff, and they did what was necessary. Okay, the Irgun and uh, what was the other thing? The Irgun and the other precursor to the IDF, the Irgun and whatever. Point is, I think there is something that you can do. Like I said, printing off some flyers from your laser printer. That's not hateful. That's not graffiti. That's not anything. That's not even mentioning race. That's saying, why are you trying to sow the seeds of distrust between the genders? Why not have a healthy and harmonious dynamic between the sexes? I don't see where people could find fault with that. So, like I said, even if you just reach 25, 50 kids coming out of one school on one day, there's another group tomorrow and the next day and the next day. So in one week, you could reach a couple hundred kids. That's pretty good. And if everybody did something like that, what effort is that to stand there and hand out a flyer, right? So I think there is something that can be done. Let me look at the comments here. Uh, Oh, it's like Brave New World, right? You're not allowed to love or have adoration towards others, right? Because love by definition is exclusive. If you love somebody, you care about them more than you do others. You have stronger feelings for them than you do others. I mean, if you love somebody and you were given a choice, it's like these ethical dilemmas. Okay, do you divert a runaway train so that it kills five children or one fat bastard? Um, these ethical questions. Well, if you love somebody, it's like you present a dilemma. It's like, okay, who do you want us to kill, your child or 10 other people's children? You would say, okay, it's one versus 10, but that one is mine. That's my child and I love him. So kill the 10 strange children, right? That's love. Love is you care more about someone, usually one someone or a select number of someone's, than you do from the undifferentiated mass of everybody else. Everybody else, and then there's everybody else, and then there are the people I love. So and that's like when you see these weird posters and these weird sentiments, or people will express things like they get accused of hatred hatred, and like, oh, somebody said hate speech, some actress or something, and she'll say, I love everybody. I love everybody. How the fuck can you love everybody? If you love everybody, you love no one. Okay? There's no difference between loving everybody and not loving everybody. It's the same. The only thing that makes love unique is that it's sort of if you want to think of it as terrain, it's an elevated feature amongst everything else is at sea level, and then you have a mountain. You have a mountain spike coming up out of the topography. That's love. Love means you care more about certain people. So how can you love everybody? I mean, that is such a wishy-washy, diluted form of love that it's meaningless to love everybody. Um, but I see statements like that. I love everybody. I love everybody. All right. Let's see. Going through the comments. Yeah, I think the if you fix the gender war, probably most of the other problems in America would they'd be mitigated. They'd be at least improved. Yeah. Well, wasn't that the premise of Brave New World? Everybody belonged to everybody else, so you couldn't show love for one person. You actually had to love everybody else equally. And like I said, if you love everybody equally, you love no one. Yeah, somebody says every male celebrity will be a sex offender accused eventually. And I mean, it goes hand in hand. Like I said, I don't think if you were to go into a teenage girl's room or a 20 something college student's female college student's room, you're not going to see posters of men or pictures of men like on the wall, like a athlete or a singer. You're not going to see that, okay? And you used to see that, like a girl would have, I don't know, a portrait, a photo of Jim Morrison, okay, if she had a thing for, classic music or the Beatles, or maybe she listened to the contemporary stuff at that time, okay, and it was In Sync or the Backstreet Boys or 98 Degrees or whatever. She would have those posters of those guys on her wall. Now, I guarantee you, there is no male presence on her wall. It's all her female friends, her family members, but mostly her female friends. And it's them doing shit together, them going to the beach together, them going on this excursion and that excursion. Men are completely absent. They don't feature in her world at all. I mean, that's a big change to go from, in 20 years, girls would be like salivating over which one of the, and they did it in the 60s too. Every girl had their favorite Beatle, every girl had their favorite member of the Monkees. Is it, Peter Nesmith, Peter Nesbitt, who was the other guy? Mickey Dolenz was the ugly fucker. Nobody wanted Mickey. Um uh, Peter Tork, whatever. Oh, and Davy Jones. Everyone liked Davy Jones. But they'd be like saying, "Oh, which member do you like?" Whatever, whatever. And then they got more mature and they'd listen to, yeah, believe it or not, rock music was popular with girls in the 60s, 70s, like, Black Sabbath and Led Zeppelin and The Who and things like that. And then you flash forward and, well, it's like they don't really have any interest in men. There's no there's no poster on their wall. There are no photos. It's all photos of their female friends. I mean, maybe there's a picture of like some female celebrity that they idolize, like and this is the other thing. This goes hand in hand with the video I did yesterday about you know, my future wife's future daughter, raising money for her Gardasil vaccine and her NuvaRing. Um, shit, what was I going to say? I'm sorry, my mind's slipping here. What was I going to say? Um, fuck, what was I going to say? Um, I was going off on a tangent. Um, shit. Anyway, I don't know where I was going with that. But yeah, yeah. I don't think women today, men don't really feature into their expanse at all. They really just focus on their female friends, doing everything with their female friends. Oh, remember when we went here, when we did this? They go shopping together. And I don't just mean to the mall. I mean they go fucking food shopping with each other. I mean food shopping things. Usually, I mean, even in the 70s, a couple would live together and they'd go get groceries and they'd cook together. Watch any fucking movie from the 70s. Um, whether it was uh, what was that detective with Serpico? Serpico. Anything that shows like a couple living together, Annie Hall, anything that shows a couple, a man and a woman like living together, they'd pick up like a bag of groceries and then they'd be cooking. Play It Again, Sam, again with Woody Allen. Uh, that shows like the dynamic. Now it's like all the girls are gathering like in a witch's coven, for brunch. They're doing everything together. Single sex groups, again, single sex groups. Um, that's what you'll notice. It's always segregated groups on college campus, and they just do everything together separately. Separately, not the men are alone, looking miserable, sitting in silence with other male friends, and the females are having a great time, or at least they keep up the facade, and they're going to the gym together, working out. They're going to have lunch together. They're studying together for even studying something you would think is a solitary activity, but they study together. Uh, Um, but they there's definitely I know what I was going to say. Yeah, I want to live in a world where my future daughter, she looks up to people like not just like what's her name, Kim Kardashian, but even better is looking up to people like Kylie Jenner. She's a self-made woman. She's got money. Yeah, yeah. I mean, yeah, I know her father's like a clown, Tyrannosaurus Rex, but she's has a lot of money, and she's she's important. She's an important person. She's got what, $1 billion, I think the news said. She's like self-made, right? I mean, it's kind of we have different definitions of what constitutes self-made, but she did it all herself. I'm sure she has like a 200 IQ. She's like a super genius. Okay, she's not, she couldn't even graduate college, let alone have an MBA, but somehow she is a brilliant business. She has brilliant business acumen to build that cosmetic empire, and I want my future daughter to idolize somebody who's slathered in makeup and whose father is now her mother, and just underwent like all of these operations. So um you see it too, like these Tyrannosaurus Rexes on YouTube, and they amass quite a following, like Blair White, and you'll have girls commenting like, "Oh, you're so beautiful. Why can't I be as beautiful as you?" And that's the type of America I want to live in. I want to live in a country where my future daughter is actually jealous of a man for undergoing like all of those surgeries where they get their fucking faces punched and shattered and then reassembled. You know, it's funny. I mean, if you just stopped right there, it's a hate crime. The first step in cosmetic surgery is like breaking all the bones of your face, like your nose, your cheekbones, just fucking shattering them. If you stop right there, that's a crime. But if you keep going, then it's helping somebody with their body dysmorphia. Okay, it's interesting. Just one step further. It's a small step from hate crime to helping, being a good person, helping them resolve their body image, body dysmorphia problems. So I want to live in a country. In the future, my daughter feels inadequate to an actual man who has spent hundreds of thousands of dollars on plastic surgery and hormones and cosmetics. That's the type of America I want to live in. That my daughter is actually feeling jealous of a butchered male. That's America. Okay, make sure to wave your flags, people. Okay, show some respect. Show some respect for our veterans who protect our freedoms like that. I mean, that's an important freedom for your daughter to be jealous of a butchered male. Okay, so for her to feel inadequate to a biological male who's just had the plates of its face just shattered and then reconstructed and shellacked with makeup and stuff like that. That's an important freedom to have. Okay, you do not want to live in a fascist society. It would be horrible. Okay, democracy is the best. Wave your flags, honor your vets, people. Okay, they fought for our freedoms in Vietnam and over in Germany. Okay, remember that. Oh, did the mic cut out? Let me see. No, mic's still going. Yeah, that was my rant. No, no, no. See, healthcare. This is Chris Jones here. Healthcare is only going to allow you. Public healthcare will pay for you to have gender reassignment surgery, but if you're a man with body dysmorphia, they're not going to help you. Okay, if you want a bigger jaw or say bigger pec muscles, okay, like I have a big chest already, like 52-inch chest, but I want a 62-inch chest. Okay, I want pec implants. And I feel small. I feel tiny. I feel like a peanut. Okay. When I go outside, I feel like a peanut. And I have body dysmorphia, but Medicaid would only pay for me to cut my wiener off. It won't pay for me to have pec implants, even though that's the type of body dysmorphia I have. So yeah, it's kind of hypocritical. I understand that, but if you're a male and you want to have higher testosterone, if your livelihood depends on you being the biggest and strongest, if you're a pro wrestler or a baseball player, you do not have access to steroids. Okay, you do not have access to steroids. You do not have access to human growth hormone. Okay, they'll test you for that shit. Don't do it. But if you're a male and you want to become a woman, it is a pretty simple matter to get on that estrogen. Okay. But yes, we need to criminalize anybody who wants to, up their T levels, anybody who wants to go on human growth hormone. I knew this one guy in high school, and his growth was stunted, like for his age, for like being like 16. He was unusually short. And then they put this fucker on human growth hormone, and he ends up being like 6'5", but it didn't really fit his frame. So he was incredibly lanky, like he would blow away in the wind. And so it's like the handicapper general. Oh, you're short? Well, let's bring you up. Let's make you average. Okay. But, average people are people who are a little bit tall. No, no, no. We're not going to let you become even taller. I mean, it would have been fun for me to get on human growth hormone, right? Like maybe I would have ended up like 6'10", you know, 6'10" instead of the measly height I've assumed right now. So, but no, 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 no. Human growth hormone is only for midgets. Testosterone is only for female to male transsexuals. Okay. If you want to increase your T levels, no, we're not going to allow that. Okay. Human growth hormone is only for midgets. Testosterone, androgen therapy, only for female to male transsexuals. Okay. So let's see here. It's like a tongue in cheek, though. What I'm saying is, maybe I wanted to be 7 feet tall. Okay. It's my body, my choice. Okay. If I want a 60-inch chest, you know, that's the government's job. You're my pay pigs, okay? The taxpayers are my pay pigs. And if I have to pay for prisoners to have gender reassignment surgery, okay, or just, I think in Canada, it's even, you don't have to be in prison. Canada, it's just a part of their socialized healthcare. They pay for gender reassignment surgery. Well, if I have body dysmorphia in the sense that I feel too tiny, if I feel like a peanut, maybe I should get some nice pec implants. Okay, maybe I need, some additional stuff. And no, I don't want to use padding. Okay, that doesn't look good. That doesn't help with my body dysmorphia. Okay, I need pec implants. Okay, so that's the role of the taxpayers. Role of the taxpayers. Uh, but anyway, this rant's gone on, I think, long enough. I think I covered everything. Let's see. Yeah, but the video I put up yesterday, not so much on interracial couples, and especially it was more critical of the males who engage in them, because you look down at your child and it looks nothing like you. Looks nothing like you. I mean, even if you're black, your child's not going to be black. It'll have some black features. But if you were really proud to be black, you would want your child to look like you, not like a gray, washed out, ashen version of yourself. But you see it all the same if you have like a white male and an Asian female, and the kid does not look white at all. So it's hard for me to understand why these people labor, in these, you know, high stress, high demand jobs with commutes for a child that doesn't resemble them, especially if it's a female child. Okay, like I said, how are you going to relate to a female child? But especially with adoption. I mean, somebody said, well, this is the musings of a genetic dead end. Anybody who adopts is a genetic dead end, both the male and the female. If it's an adopted child, it's not yours. So in that sense, both the male and the female are genetic dead ends. And the same thing, like I said, if your kid is so special ed, if your kid is, instead of Mr. Ed, it's special ed, instead of special K, it's special ed. If your kid's so fucked, like really, really fucked up, you're already dead ends by way of extension. It's like you're one step removed from being a genetic dead end. Yes, you have a child, but that child is so, impossible, it just messed up, has cognitive impairments, whatever, that he's a dead end. Or your child comes out as a theater fag, likes to play in the marching band. You sort of have an inkling if your son wants to join marching band in middle school. I guess you're not going to be having any grandkids. So it's, critical of people. Have one kid. Putting all your eggs in one basket is not a smart idea. Um, special, ed, special needs children, gay children. I mean, you're laboring for what? It's like you're in mid-flight and you're trying to work out, you were launched from a cannon, you're trying to figure out some complex problem. Why? You're going to end up hitting that brick wall and being smeared all over it eventually. You're a genetic dead end. Your child's a genetic dead end, so you're a genetic dead end. If that chain doesn't continue forever, it was all for nothing, right? Right? Oh, and somebody said, there was another comment, something about I need to be less concerned with building a legacy. Less concerned with building a legacy. And that's important. You live for the moment and don't think about legacy. When you look at those Egyptian pyramids that have stood for 5,000 years, and you look at the hieroglyphics, you look at the Sphinx, that thing's been there for like 8 or 10,000 years, and then you compare it to your cheap IKEA furniture that fucking breaks when you sit on it. You sit on an office chair and you pick up at Office Max, and the fucking the screws start popping out like rivets on a bulkhead, and the thing's creaking and groaning, and it just fucking falls apart after a few months. You compare that to the 5,000 or 10,000 year legacy of the ancient Egyptians, and you're like, yeah, you know what? Live for the moment. Exactly. The ancient Egyptians, they were concerned only with the afterlife. I mean, they had such extreme future orientation. They did nothing but plan for the afterlife. They didn't even really live. Their whole life was given over to the afterlife. I mean, think about that. It's hard to, like I said, when you're sitting on a fucking pressed wood piece of IKEA furniture shit that breaks the moment you sit on it, and things are spitting out screws like this, like a Titanic when it's sunk. But that was craftsmanship made to last, and people are still amazed at it to this day. Difference in mindset. Very, I would say, masculine mindset, which is concerned with legacy. Will I be remembered? Versus the feminine mindset, which is to live in the moment, to consume, to basically only exist in the present. That's how I would define like a masculine versus feminine mindset. And see, doesn't talk about trivial shit, muscles, height, tattoos, shit like that. Legacy, concern for a legacy versus no concern for a legacy. I don't think women are concerned with a legacy. They're not scared of death. I think they welcome it. I think increasingly more numbers of males are welcoming the prospect of death. I don't see people being concerned or afraid of the prospect of death. They won't exist. In a few years, they will not exist. Um, they seem to be they seem to be at peace with that, and that's weird since the rate of atheism is increasing. Like you would think it would be the opposite. If more and more people are becoming godless and becoming atheistic in their outlook, shouldn't there be like a panic setting in? Shouldn't there be like a sense of dread that would just continue to grow and grow? This fear of death, because really, I mean, if you're faithful, if you do believe in an afterlife, then you should be less afraid to die than if you're an atheist. I mean, isn't that the saying, there are no atheists in foxholes? So it's weird. It's like people are increasingly, I think, they're not afraid of death. I think they welcome it. You never really hear people expressing any fear of not existing, no existential despair. It's just, oh, I can't afford my new Apple products. Oh, did you see that new original on Netflix last night? Did you catch Game of Thrones? Atheism is increasing, and yet the fear of death is going down. That's weird. That's weird. Let me look at the chat here. But yeah, so I think that's the difference in male versus female mindset. Concern for legacy. Either you're concerned with your legacy and what you leave behind, or you're not. And I don't think women really are at all. Um, and more men aren't either. That's how it seems to me. But I think that's about the. I think that's the long and short of it. Let me see. Oh, somebody says Bible is cope. I still have to do that video on why I'm no longer an atheist. That's the long awaited one. But one of the reasons is, and this is strictly if you look in terms, if you adopt, like, I guess it would be called a utilitarian outlook. And by that I mean you define what is true as what is, you define what is true as what works. Okay, so you adopt just strictly a utilitarian outlook on stuff, not on evidence, not on logic, etc., but strictly just a utilitarian outlook on things. Then it seems then that the Bible is actually a lot more consistent with genetic success and longevity than godlessness, social liberalism, permissiveness, etc. Because if you were to follow exactly as what is laid out in the Bible, it is the recipe for a long and healthy life with a legacy, with a genetic legacy. Um, I mean, we always talk about what is forbidden by Christianity, what is prohibited, and it's, yes, we talk about, transgenderism is prohibited. When they talk about, men should not dress as women and women should not dress as men. Homosexuality is forbidden, but also fornication. Fornication is forbidden. And isn't it interesting that if you were to follow these injunctions, right, you would be free of any STDs, STIs. There would be no HPV related cancers. If people were joined together as virgins, by definition, neither of them will ever have an STI or STD, unless they're raped or something like that. Um, so also, I mean, what birth control is forbidden, right? So large family, large genetic legacy, what, be fruitful and multiply, have the importance of family, and I think isn't even miscegenation explicitly forbidden? And they, of course, they don't refer to it as race mixing in the Bible. They refer to it as not mixing tribes. Don't mix amongst different tribes. That's how they refer to it. You kept to your own tribe. And, if you extended that, because everybody was of the similar race, uh, but they said you would stick to your own group of people, your own tribe. So interesting how if you follow those simple rules, it ensures you have a long life free from different diseases, especially those that are sexually contracted. You don't have to worry about infidelity. Your legacy is secured in the sense that you will have many children and they will look like you because you didn't mix with another tribe. So your legacy is secure so long as you follow those injunctions or those prohibitions. So it's always interesting to compare who's more successful, an atheist or the most pious, most religious person you can find. And you find somebody like the Duggars. That guy should be given, evolutionary biology man of the year award. I mean, there is a man who's winning at life, right? He has 25 children, only one wife, but like 25 children. His children are now having children. Now he's a Mormon, I think, and he's winning at life more than any evolutionary biologist ever has. Uh, Richard Dawkins, I think, has one daughter, if I'm not mistaken. Other prominent atheists, Kurt Vonnegut, I think, had one son. And these were members of the secular leaders, I think, of the Humanist Association, the Secular Humanist Association. Isaac Asimov, I think, maybe had one or two children. He was an avowed atheist. Um, Other people too, I think, like who else? Carl Sagan, I think, maybe had one child. Um, but yeah, people like Richard Dawkins, Christopher Hitchens. Did Christopher Hitchens even have a child? These very prominent atheists. Atheists are not good at reproducing. And then you look at somebody, even of other religions, some, people in Africa, and it's like the most pious, the most religious, and they have like 60 kids. Okay. And again, so atheism seems to be a genetic dead end. So just if you go strictly as a utilitarian and you just describe that which works is right, then it would seem religion is a lot more correct than atheism. I mean, atheism, we can see its limitations. We can see that it's self destructive. Atheism leads to people channeling their nurturing instinct into non human entities, into animals, pets, hobbies, possessions. I mean, even the concept of not having false idols, right? Not having false idols. I mean, you have people fucking worshiping not just celebrities, but worshiping like material shit. Like they got a car and they're out waxing it every day. All of their attention, all of their money is devoted to rehabbing some old fucking Corvette, like some old car that was slated for the junkyard, but they salvaged it and they're like remaking some 1939 Harley Davidson knucklehead. It's like, ooh, all of that effort into something that's not even human, that's not yours. That's I don't know about that. So if you just adopt, like, again, not if you don't have to talk logic, don't have to talk anything about that, just strictly from a utilitarian perspective, it would seem then that belief or religion is a way to have a more to have a longer, healthier, more fulfilling life, and helps ensure that you leave a legacy far better than does atheism. Atheism seems to be very self-destructive. People don't reproduce. People have one kid. The parents, kid was raised in a permissive environment. Kid becomes a drug addict. Kid overdoses. Kid is gay. Kid is a theater fag. And that's the end of that chapter, right? If you're raised in a permissive environment, chances are you're not going to continue on. And then you look at these like old order Amish, and you can read the obituaries, and it's interesting for not having access to any of our wonderful modern day technologies. And it'll be, what was the guy's name? Stolfus, Gideon. Yeah, you can look this up. Look up the obituary for Gideon Stolfus of the old Amish church. He died at the age, this was from a few years ago. He died at the age of like 97. And he was a farmer slash store owner. He had like 10 daughters, 100 grandkids, and at the time of his passing, he had left so many great grandchildren, etc. Um, at the time of his passing, he left behind like 600 descendants. 600 descendants. Okay, when you add up children, grandchildren, great grandchildren, great great grandchildren, on and on and on, he was leaving behind 700 descendants, compared to the atheists who go from four down to two down to one. I mean, just by the definitions of evolutionary biology, atheism is a loser. Atheism does not work. Uh, So, just strictly looking at things from that perspective. But let me check the chat, then I'm going to punch out, I think. Uh, cuts out. All right. Somebody says, we have to accept the fact that the age of the white man has come to an end. That's like from Lord of the Rings, right? The age of man is over. The age of the orc has come. If it's the age of the white man is over, I don't know whose time it is. I would say the Asians, perhaps. I don't see who else is uh, going to take the helm. The Chinese, perhaps, but I think even Einstein it was found in some recent paper that was discovered that Einstein had written in like the 20s, and it revealed that he was really racist toward Chinese people. He said they were like animals, very uncivilized, and he said he thought highly of the Japanese, but he really hated the Chinese, and that's from Einstein. Um, Somebody says Christianity is a slave religion. Yeah, there are good parts. I think the other message is it's a way to endure persecution. Let's put it that way. It's a way to endure persecution, because what is really the message? That Christ was mocked and spat upon, right? And he was nailed to a cross. He had his side pierced with a spear. Everybody mocked him. They put betrayed him, put the crown of thorns on his head and referred to him as King of the Jews. And it was a crown fashioned out of thorns. Uh, and in the end, it's revealed that he's vindicated, right? Everything he said was true. What appeared to be a very weak man, helpless, nailed to a cross, was in fact the most uh, important man, the strongest man of all, right? Revealed to be the Son of God, right? Isn't that the message? It's a way of knowing that despite persecution, despite being told by all that you're wrong and that they're right, isn't it a way of finding faith and believing that no, in fact, what I believe is right? It's a way of endurance. It's a way of persistence. Um, when everyone else is mocking you, everyone else is criticizing you, it's having that strength and knowing that what you believe is in fact the truth. So I think that's the message, that's the inspiration there. uh, so I think it's a way to endure, and to have resolve and to not waver in that resolve. Let's see. Somebody says my grandfather is 105 years old and had over 20 kids. Again, see, that is a life well lived. That is a life well lived. And 105, it seems that people, like of my grandparents' generation, quite a few of them lived into very old age, okay, into their 90s, mid 90s, and they didn't have an easy life. They had a hard life, filled with privation and things like that. And yet they lived into a very respectable old age, mid 90s, or somebody here, 105. Now that is impressive. And then you have these other people. I mean, oh, people are not living longer. Okay, you have children having brain tumors and things like that, and people succumbing to different illnesses in middle age, 40, 50. I don't think that's normal. I really don't think that's normal. So, um, let's see here. Oh, somebody says God does not exist. Well, like I said, this is that's something for a dedicated video for a different time. Um, that's a whole different video. Let's see here. And it always amazes me, people who claim to be spiritual but not religious, spiritual but atheist. That doesn't follow. Okay, you can't be spiritual without being religious. If you're spiritual, it means you believe in a soul. It means you're not a materialist. Okay, not in the sense of buying stuff, but if you are an atheist, you believe in nothing but materialism. Okay, you don't believe that there's something that's immaterial, something that's beyond what we can see. So how can an atheist, somebody who does not believe in God, just meaning a higher entity, how can they believe in something immaterial like the soul, or something like karma, or something like the force? It doesn't work that way. If there is something immaterial, it obviously has had to be created. Okay, the opposite is not true. You could be religious without being spiritual. You could believe in a creator, but not believe in the soul, right? But the opposite is not consistent. You can't be spiritual. You can't think that you have a soul and then still claim to be an atheist. Okay, where did the soul come from if you are a materialist? It's crazy. These people who purport to be atheists, they don't even know what the term atheist means. Atheism and materialism are the same. Okay, it's to claim that you are your body, there is nothing else there. Okay, so at least like the old style Russian, you know, anarchist atheists, they were consistent. Okay, when they said they were atheists, they meant they were just, they did not have a view of anything beyond the material world. But that is a talk for another time. Uh, let's see here. Anyway, I'm gonna punch out. This went longer than I wanted, but thanks for watching, and I'm out.